All right, fellas, this will be the Week 9 Power Rankings video. So the overall rankings graphic will look the same, but I did make a change to the individual team breakdowns. I made it a bit more subjective. I think it will be easier to comprehend and just will be an overall better product. So looking at the overall league rankings here, quite a bit of movement in this set of rankings. TaylorMade and Lisan al-Gaib take the 1 and 2 spots, both going 3-0 in the last 3 games and scoring the most amount of points over the last 3 weeks. The middle of the league is pretty tight, a lot of posturing amongst similar records. And then down there at the bottom, Sam has lost 8 straight. Looking at the first individual lineup, we have TaylorMade. Before I break down Alex's team, I want to explain the tiers a little bit. So that first tier lineup block, pretty self-explanatory. If you have these guys, you're playing them. Feels good is basically you're pretty sure that you're comfortable that these guys are going to have a solid performance week to week. And then W bench, it's basically like a spot start tier or a tier that I can see you starting this player, but in my opinion, I'd like to be able to keep this guy on my bench. So looking at Alex's lineup here, in the lineup lock tier, we have Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, Puka Nacua, and Rashee Rice, all elite talents in really good situations. Not much to nitpick here. In the feels good tier, we have Breece Hall, Kyle Pitts, Romeo Doubs, Jordan Addison. Basically everybody here is the second option on their team. Breece Hall, obviously the lead back in the Jets offense, but it is the Jets offense, so bit of a handicap there. And then the W bench, again, I can see you starting these guys, Quinn Johnson, Ricky Pearsall, Khalil Shakir, but obviously you'd like to have better talent on your team. But overall, Alex has just a really, really, really good team this year and is, in my opinion, the front runner to win the championship. Looking at the 2 spot here, we have Lisan al-Gaib, Joe's team. In that lineup locked here, Jamar Chase, Bucky Irving, Brock Bowers. Jamar Chase has paired really well with Joe Flacco. Bucky Irving's a dominant fantasy player when healthy. And Brock Bowers, he did have a rough game last night, but he really can win you a matchup any given week. In that feels good tier, we got Justin Herbert. He's pretty close to a lineup lock, but you're not 100% sure he's going to have a great performance every single week. Also, that O-line has taken quite a few hits this year. And then that other group of guys, Jalen Warren, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, Dallas Goedert, good players, but just really haven't shown to be dominant. And then W bench, Jordan Love, definitely a startable quarterback. Terry McLaurin, Tony Pollard. These guys are weaker, I would say, in the W bench tier, but definitely guys you could start. Overall, Joe's team is moving in the right direction, putting up a lot of points week to week, and is definitely putting himself in a position to have a strong playoff run. At the 3 spot, we have Mahomes Magic Show, my team. In the lineup lock tier, Patrick Mahomes, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. All elite players in good situations. Again, not much to knock on really any of these guys. In the feels good category, we have Jackson Dart, Rico Dowdle, Emeka Egbuka, and George Kittle. Dart's looked really good in his starting opportunities. Rico Dowdle has taken over for the Panthers. Does have a bit of an injury situation. It is the Panthers who really haven't shown sustained success, so a bit shaky there. Emeka Egbuka has had a rough, month. So is Baker, though. The Buccaneers have been injured quite a bit, so maybe things get better for him and he ends up back in the lineup lock category. But for now, just in the feels good category. George Kittle feels like he's just waiting for Brock Purdy to get back. Mac Jones, I feel, runs through the receivers a bit more, but George Kittle, you should definitely feel good having at your tight end spot. And then the W bench spot, Rachaad White is going to be the RB1 as long as Bucky Irving is hurt, and Trey Benson. This is obviously a bit more subjective, but I feel Trey Benson is a very good piece, especially with the Cardinals' offensive line. Just fits that team and offense really well. So overall, my team, very strong team, projected 147 or 146 there. I think that's a bit rich, but definitely a powerful team moving into the playoffs. At 4, we have MAGA Kitchens, Cal's team. The lineup locked here, Lamar Jackson, Bijan, and JSN. Lamar Jackson, just that guy in fantasy. Bijan Robinson. Falcons have looked rough recently, but too much talent there, and he's basically the whole offense. So no chance you're ever taking Bijan Robinson out of your lineup. And then JSN is having, again, one of the greatest receiver seasons. Him and Puka, man, just absolutely fantastic this year. In the feels good category, Caleb Williams, Quinshon Judkins, and Rome Odunze. Caleb Williams played pretty solid this year. Looks like he may be the first 4,000-yard passer for the Bears. Quinshon Judkins, Browns workhorse running back, and Browns have been a very tight end running back team this year. So I guess tight end running back led offense this year. So as long as that continues, Quinshon Judkins is a very comfortable start. And then Rome Odunze has taken a step back, similar to Emeka Egbuka, where he earlier in the season was probably a lineup lock, but looking to rebound moving forward for Rome. In the W bench spot, Courtland Sutton, Brian Thomas Jr., and David Montgomery. All guys that's probably name credibility would be in the feels good, but they've had some rough games this year, Brian Thomas Jr. especially. But Cal's team, obviously first time not being in the one spot, but still a lot of talent on this team and should definitely be in the mix in the playoffs. At 5 is Colt 45s in the lineup lock category. We have CMC, Devon Achane, and Tyler Warren. Christian McCaffrey, man, it's crazy. All the signs were there for him to fall off, but he's having another just dominant fantasy season. Devon Achane, basically just Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle. That's the entire Dolphins offense, and Tua loves checking down, so Devon Achane, just a great fantasy player. And then Tyler Warren at the tight end position is a legit difference maker and just a guy that you love having in your lineup. And then in the feels good category, we have Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, Marvin Harrison Jr., and T. Higgins. This group of receivers, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, Marvin Harrison Jr., are the ones on their team. T. Higgins, obviously the 2 to Jamar Chase, but all super talented players. Their talent level is better than they perform in fantasy, but you still feel comfortable having any of these guys in your starting lineup week to week. And then in the W bench tier, we have J.K. Dobbins, Harold Fannin, Dalton Kincaid, Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt. J.K. Dobbins definitely the best of this group. Fannin and Kincaid are tight ends that I in my other leagues are starting players. So definitely good depth pieces for Colt to have. And then this is, again, more subjective for me, but with Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt, he hasn't played well recently, but they've had a rough schedule in his last couple of games, and his playoff schedule is very good. So I think that is a solid piece to have for Colt, where, again, I don't want to be starting him right now, but is a nice piece to have on the bench. And for here with Colt, I think this is a tier break within the league. Basically, the 5 teams, Colt included, above, I think, score a lot of points and then consistently, score a lot of points consistently. And then the 5 teams below, I feel like, have shown that they have that ceiling, but are just extremely inconsistent. So at 6, we have Big Papa Kless's team. In the line of locked here, we have Matt Stafford and Drake London. Matt Stafford has been really, really good this year, probably, honestly, one of his best seasons in his career. Drake London had a 3-touchdown game recently, and Michael Penix has really zeroed in on him as the guy. Darnell Mooney's kind of fallen off from his really good 2024 season. In the feels good category, got Saquon Barkley, Chase Brown, Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs, and Sam Laporta. Saquon Barkley trending in the right direction, but still really hasn't been a dominant player this year. Definitely has had some good weeks, though. Chase Brown, I really like where Chase Brown is heading with Joe Flacco. Definitely Bengals offense has improved in general with Flacco, and then also Flacco likes to throw to his running backs. Olave should see a bump here with Rashid Shaheed getting traded, and just overall is a solid player. And then Stephon Diggs with Kayshon Boutte injury. Stephon Diggs gets a bump. Just talented player in the slot and a good offense. And then Sam Laporta, he's looked really good recently with the Lions there. In the W bench, Kamani Vidal, Deebo Samuel, Kenneth Walker, and Tyrone Tracy. With Vidal, he might be losing some work this week. I believe it's Jarrett Patterson that kind of took over as the hot hand last week. Deebo Samuel, don't really know that I would be confident starting a player with Marcus Mariota consistently. And then Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, injury away from being a weekly fantasy player, but just in a chopped situation right now. And then Tyrone Tracy should be the guy for the Giants, and you like having him if he ends up growing into that role. But for the time being, you don't really want to be starting him. Overall, for Kless's team, moving in the right direction and definitely has a shot to make the playoffs. At 7, we have I've Given Up Kerr's team. Looking at the lineup locked here, we got CeeDee Lamb and Oronde Gadsden. CeeDee Lamb, not much to say there. Dak Prescott, high passing offense, high volume passing offense. And then for Oronde Gadsden, he's been the breakout this year. Just an elite athlete and in a Chargers offense that just from last year to this year, just complete flip in what they're trying to do, just passing the ball like crazy this year. So I think he is a lineup lock moving forward. Maybe a bit premature, but I'd feel very, very confident with him as my tight end. In the feels good category, we got Sam Darnold, Dak Prescott, Kyren Williams, Nico Collins, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelce. So for Darnold and Prescott, both having pretty solid seasons overall. Darnold has obviously been a bit better recently, but just solid fantasy quarterbacks there. Kyren Williams, you feel really good about having Kyren Williams due to him being in a good offense. Again, I've kind of been saying this a lot this year. I don't really think that he's that exceptional of a player. It's just he happens to be in a really, really good offense. And definitely this year they've been throwing near the goal line, especially to Davante Adams. So losing a bit of touchdown volume there. For Nico Collins, I kept going back and forth with Nico Collins on the lineup lock tier and the feels good tier, but you're probably not going to ever take Nico Collins out of your lineup. But the Texans this year have just really, really been confusing on the offensive side of the ball. But he is still the number one guy. For Keenan Allen, he's had a great resurgence this year. Honestly, not even a resurgence. He had a solid year for the Bears last year, but just a solid player overall. You're not really jumping for joy with Keenan Allen, but you're pretty convinced you're going to get a solid performance out of him. And then Travis Kelce, just being Mahomes' tight end. Maybe that's my Mahomes bias, but it's just you're going to feel confident having the Chiefs tight end. And then in the W bench spot, Alvin Kamara has been a big disappointment this year. Just either doesn't have the juice anymore or just being a running back on a terrible offense has really hurt him this year. And then Kyle Monangai, a big game last week. It'll be interesting to see if he becomes the number one running back for the Bears, but definitely a guy that I don't want to be starting necessarily, but nice to have on the bench. Kerr's team, a lot of solid players on this team. With Kerr's history, never really counting him out, and definitely has a shot at the playoffs. At the 8th spot, we have Ihop Challenge, Tim's team. A lineup locked here, Ashton Genty and Davante Adams. Ashton Genty, I mentioned it the other day. I think it was in the Intel video, maybe, but the Raiders' offense is Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. So Ashton Genty, never taken him out of the lineup. Super high ceiling week to week. Davante Adams has really turned it on recently with Matthew Stafford. The goal line fades, man. Just not many guys doing it like him anymore. In the feels good tier, we got Bo Nix, Jared Goff, Javonte Williams, Michael Pittman Jr., and Wan'Dale Robinson. Bo Nix and Jared Goff, both good players, good teams, good offenses. But I don't recall what Bo Nix scored last night, but they just can occasionally just drop ducks and have rough weeks. And then Javonte Williams, he's very similar to Kyren Williams, in my opinion, where he's going to do as good as the Cowboys offense does. So don't really think he's an elite playmaker, but with him being in a good offense, you feel good week to week starting him. Michael Pittman Jr., number one receiver, I should say, for the Colts. With how Daniel Jones has played this year, you feel really good week to week starting Michael Pittman Jr., but you're not necessarily expecting 20 points every start. Also, Wan'Dale Robinson, probably the Giants' number one passing option at this point. Solid slot receiver for the Giants. In the W bench category, we got Aaron Jones and TJ Hawkinson, two Vikings players that not necessarily thrilled to start, but they have two solidified of roles that I still would like to have these guys on my bench. Overall, with Tim's team, definitely have a shot at the playoffs, but just in general, it's been a bit of a frustrating year for Tim with the Omarion Hampton injury and the Malik Nabers injury. And just, I don't know that this team is talented enough to overcome those. So definitely still in it for Tim. At 9, we have Team Elyaderani. Grayson's team in the lineup locked here. We got Jahmyr Gibbs, Trey McBride, and A.J. Brown. Jahmyr Gibbs, Trey McBride, those guys probably pretty agreeable to be in this tier. Just extremely talented players in situations that really feature them, especially Trey McBride getting Jacoby Brissett now. A.J. Brown could be a bit controversial in this spot, but I just think he's too good of a truly talented NFL player to consider taking out of your lineup. In the feels good tier, we have Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, Derrick Henry, and Ladd McConkey. Daniel Jones, rough week last week, has been steady this year, though. Baker Mayfield has had a rough couple of games recently, but still a guy that you believe in week to week in fantasy. Derrick Henry, that super high ceiling player, you feel good starting him because of that every week. But this year, more than usual, he's had a few rough games. Ladd McConkey, since the Chargers have lost that strong offensive line, losing the tackles, the Chargers have started throwing the ball short a lot more. So that's where Ladd McConkey's production has increased, and Quentin Johnston has kind of fallen off. And then in the W bench spot, we got Teddy McMillan. Panthers have really locked in on Rico Dowdle in the run game in general. So Teddy Rowe is a very talented player, and I like him. I would love him in the dynasty format, but I don't know that this year is the year that Teddy Rowe is going to put it together. Grayson's team has that super high ceiling, but I think in week 7 he had more points than he did in week 8 and week 9 combined. So just really never know what you're going to get from Grayson's team. But like I said, high ceiling, a lot of potential here. At 10, we have greatest ever Sam's team in the lineup locked here. We got Drake May, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson. Drake May and Jalen Hurts, 2 top-tier fantasy quarterbacks, and Justin Jefferson, just an elite receiver. Don't really need to say much other than that. Feels good category. We got DeAndre Swift, Devontae Smith, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson. DeAndre Swift, the Bears have shown some loyalty to him, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with Kyle Monangai. But DeAndre Swift traditionally will do as good as the Bears do. Devontae Smith, that classic boomer bust player, can have 30, can also have 4 points. So George Pickens and Jake Ferguson both in the same boat where they performed really, really well with CeeDee Lamb out and were legitimately lineup locks when CeeDee Lamb was out, but probably take a step back where you're confident they're going to have a good game, but not really expecting 30 points. In the W bench category, we have Travis Etienne and Juwan Jennings. Jaguars offense is pretty spread out, and I don't really like the Jaguars offense too much this year, but Travis Etienne is a solid player that you like on your bench. And then Juwan Jennings, more of a Brock Purdy guy, similar in the Kittle boat where you're waiting for Brock Purdy to get back, but can definitely have some good starts and is a nice guy to have on the bench. Overall, with Sam's team, his team is honestly just it's been pretty frustrating for Sam this year. I think Sam's only scored less than 100 points one time. And 100 points isn't necessarily like, oh, I score 100 points, I should win. But what I'm trying to say is Sam's team hasn't been bad enough to the point where I think it's a 1-8 team, but just things haven't broken right for him this year. But probably out of the playoffs, looking to avoid last place moving forward. Looking back at the overall rankings, we got 4, 6, and 3 teams that are seemingly posturing for the 2 byes. Then we got 5, 4, and 5 teams that are just chasing their playoff berths. Just super close race this year. You can see the 5, 4, and 5 teams have only been separated by 14 points over the last 3 weeks. So every start-sit decision matters, and we should have a good run out here come the playoffs. Only other thing I got is just a reminder that this is just my opinion. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But I just try and provide my insight with what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from my different fantasy news outlets. So that's all I have for this video. The next video will be the last Intel video for week 10. So that's all I got. Thank you guys.